Hey everybody! I'm going to take a few minutes to go over all of the homework items listed for week 2. So when you click on the week 2 homework assignments tab, you saw underneath several sub-tabs of homework items. The first one was to read chapters 2 and 3. Again, it says read them. It's more like skimming them just to help reinforce the material that was presented in the lessons of week 2. Some people prefer to read from textbooks, and that's why I give the reading assignment. If you fully understood the PowerPoints and watched the accompanying video lessons, you might not really need to look over those chapters much at all. But they are there. They do reinforce the lessons from the week 2 module. Next item you'll see listed is the week 2 journal. And hopefully you watched the explanation video in the week 2 module on what the weekly journals are all about, how they function. And this week's journal is our first one, and it's a little different than what they will be the rest of the course, but this is sort of our introduction to argument, if you will. So for Journal 2, your prompt is, what are your current views on argument after going through the material in the week 1 module? Do you think it is important to learn about argument, both for your future career and life in general? What do you hope to gain from this class, knowing that the focus will be on learning how to identify and utilize argument effectively? Now, depending on what your views of argument are, before going through the week 1 material, you might have a different reaction. Make sure that you've gone through the material thinking about what we talked about in week 1. What is argument? What is rhetoric? Think about what we learned in week 1. And what do you think about argument now? What are your views on argument? Do you think it's important to learn about? And again, we're not talking about argument with yelling at each other. We're talking about the art of persuasion. Okay? So try to, give me a good full paragraph. It says to try to, type nonstop for 8 to 10 minutes, even if you go off topic. I know that's not always easy to do, but try your best. That's a good guideline. But, if you give me a full paragraph or two answering these questions, you'll get full points. If you have any questions about it or run into any problems with it, let me know. Oh, by the way, it's a text submission, so you'll type your answer right in the text box underneath the instructions. Okay. All right, the next item listed under week 2 homework is an assignment on claims and proof. So this will be in a Word document, so you can either create your own Word document or PDF, but you'll see in the assignment instructions I've also attached a Word file that has all the questions, and you can just use that as your template and type in your answers, save it to your device, upload it, and submit it. If you don't have Word or access to PDF, maybe try the Google Docs that I have a link to under the Getting Started section. If that's not an option, reach out to me so we can figure out an alternative way for you to submit this assignment. Once you know for sure how you're going to complete it, here's what you actually need to do. Part 1 is on types of claims. So you're going to see 5 sentences in part 1. Your job is to identify what type of claim that sentence is. Is it a claim of fact, a claim of value, a claim of definition, a claim of cause, or a claim of policy? Each type is only used once, so that should make it a little easier. But just see if you can figure out what type of claim each one is. Part 2, we're going to be looking at types of support. Alright, we're looking specifically at appeals. Ethos, pathos, and logos. So if you went through the material in the week 2 module, we learned that ethos refers to an appeal to credibility. Pathos refers to an appeal to emotions, to our needs, our desires. And logos makes an appeal to logic. Okay? So, you have 9 claims, 9 sentences. What you need to do is identify whether that claim, that statement, makes an appeal to ethos, or does it make an appeal to pathos, or does it make an appeal to logos? And just write your answer on the line. Again, if you've gone through the material in the Week 2 module, this probably won't be very difficult. If you haven't gone over the material in the Week 2 module, this might be way more difficult than it should be. So I highly suggest go through the lessons first. That's what you need to learn this week. That's what this assignment is helping you practice. All right, if you have any questions about it or run into any problems, let me know. The next item in Week 2 is Course Project Part 1. So we're going to dive right in and get started on this argumentative research paper. You're going to do this part 1 here in a Word document or PDF, like I just said with the other assignment. If you don't have access to Word or a PDF, I highly suggest trying to use Google Docs for this one. It will make it a little easier. Also, you're going to end up having to use Word or a PDF or Google Docs by the time you get to the rough draft, Project Part 3. So I think the sooner you come up with a solution for how to submit these assignments that are supposed to be in Word, the better off you'll be. So that way you're not scrambling when the rough draft comes due to be able to type it up and submit it properly. But if you still can't get to Google Docs, you still don't have Word or access to PDF, contact me. We'll figure out a way for you to get this submitted. But for Project Part 1, you got several steps you're going to have to complete. Step 1 is generating a topic. So task A is an 8-minute free write. So underneath task A, you are literally going to come up with a topic, whatever topic you've been thinking about, and you are going to type nonstop for 8 to 10 minutes about that topic, what your ideas are, what you are thinking in terms of what your argument is going to be, what your main points are going to be, just anything and everything that you can think of to say about your topic. Even if you think you're going off topic, even if you think you're like going way out in left field, just keep typing, because sometimes you circle back around. So just do the free write on whatever topic you've been thinking about. Task B, after you've done the free write, is then to focus your topic. Look over the free write from task A. If you started off with a very broad topic, did your free write help you narrow anything down to something that's more manageable in 4 to 5 pages? Look through that free write and see where you want to focus. If you feel like your topic for the free write was already pretty darn focused, then just tell me in one sentence here what your focused topic is. That's what we're trying to get to, is one sentence, maybe 2, that very clearly lets me know what your focused topic is going to be for the course project. Then we move on to step 2. You're going to engage with your topic a little bit. So task C has 5 questions that you need to answer about your focused topic. Why do you care about this issue? Who else cares about this issue? And what different kinds of views might they hold? And how do those views, compare or differ to your own? What point of view on this issue do you want to communicate, and why? You can't just say my topic is, free college tuition. What's your point of view on it? Are you thinking you want to argue that college should be free, or do you want to argue that college should not be free? So here's your chance to make sure that you are clear on where your stance is on your issue. Next question, what is your larger goal? What do you hope to accomplish by writing on this issue? What do you want the readers to walk away with? And then, who are your readers? Who is your audience, and what effect do you want to have on their views? Right? Just think about this. Answer. Step 3 is your research plan. So task D has another handful of questions for you to answer. Where do you plan on conducting your research? Especially we might be limited right now. When do you plan on conducting your research? You might want to take a look at the course syllabus again and see where those course project parts are assigned, keeping in mind that in part 2, you're going to be required to list your sources. So when do you plan on conducting your research? When do you plan on having your research completed? Again, use those due dates to help you figure this out. What types of sources do you plan on using? You don't have to tell me exactly what they are, obviously. Just what type, right? Journal articles, websites, books, interviews, surveys. Do you have any like documentaries or videos or anything like that? Just where are you going to get your information? What types of sources do you plan to use? How do you plan on keeping track of your potential sources? Because you might have a lot of ideas of where to start looking for your information, and you might find an article here and a website there and a book over here and a pamphlet over there. How are you going to keep track of all that? Because the worst thing in the world is to read something and think, wow, this could be so useful to my paper. And then you go, you walk away, and then it's time to start working on the project, and you cannot remember what the heck that source was. Very disappointing. How are you going to keep track of your potential sources? And how do you plan on keeping track of any useful information that you find from your sources? Right? It's basically trying to get you to think about how you're going to keep your research organized so that you can get to your sources again and you don't forget about any of them or can't find them again. And then how are you going to keep track of what ideas are coming from each source? Because the worst thing in the world, again, is to have something in mind that you read in a source and you're going to use it in your essay, which means you have to provide a citation, but you can't find the source. So now you can't use that information because you don't know how to cite it. You don't know what to put on the reference entry. How do you plan on keeping track of all your stuff? Step 4 is just potential problems. I want you to take a moment to share any concerns or questions that you have for me. Not about your, questions or concerns about this whole thing. Are you concerned about time management? Are you concerned about sources? Are you concerned that your topic is too broad? Are you concerned that it's too controversial? Just whatever. Whatever your concerns or questions might be, type them up for step 4, and I will address them in my feedback. Okay, so that's project part 1. Try to do a really good job here in project part 1, because the more solid your foundation is here in project part 1, the more confident you will be moving forward with the course project. All right? If you have any questions or run into any problems with it, let me know. Then, of course, the last item for homework here in week 2 is the week 2 discussion. So for the week 2 discussion, you're going to be looking at your first ad/poster to analyze. And so this week's discussion is called Families and Phones. Remember, when you click on week 2 discussion, then you click on go to discussion, you're only just going to see the prompt. You're not going to be able to post anything yet. Have to click on the blue title, Families and Phones. When you do that, it takes you to the actual discussion part. You'll click on Start Thread, and then you'll see the text box where you can type in your answers. But first, you have to look at the image. So in this image, we have a picture of a father and a son sitting at what appears to be like the breakfast table. And you'll see there's a big cell phone separating them. It comes from Ogilvy and Mathers in China, and it's it's an ad campaign for the Center for Psychological Research in Shenyang. In the bottom right corner of the image, in case you can't read it, it says, "The more you connect, the less you connect. A reminder to put people first," from Center for Psychological Research, Shenyang. So study that image for a few minutes, right? Really look at it. Every part of the image. Think about the words that are there on the bottom right corner. And then these are the questions that you're going to answer. Question 1, what is the issue being presented in this argument? What is the issue? What is the claim? Question 2, how would you state that claim? And remember what we learned about a claim. It's like your thesis statement, one sentence, one very succinct, efficient, crystal clear sentence that totally encapsulates what the argument is. Question 3, who do you think is the intended audience? And there might be a primary audience and then a secondary audience. Like these are the people that the ad is probably most aimed towards, but then there are these other groups of people that could also, benefit or have a reaction to this argument. Who's the audience? Question number 4, do you detect any assumptions in the argument? Meaning, does the arguer, the creators of this image, do they assume anything about us, the audience, what we value, what we believe, how we feel, based on how the argument is presented? Is there anything that they seem to assume about us that would make them present this argument and present it in this way? Question 5, what reasons and evidence are given to support the position? So think about ethos, pathos, logos, and then your elements of logic, SICDATs, so sign, induction, cause, analogy, all of those. What do you see? What kinds of support do you see in the image? Question 6, what makes the argument interesting and or effective? Or I guess you could take the opposite approach. Maybe it's not interesting. Maybe you don't think it is effective. You could share that as well for question 6. But be specific and give reasons either way. Question 7, do you have any additional comments or questions about the argument or the image itself? So again, give this your best shot, okay? There's no wrong answers. There are answers that are a little more correct because they can be based on more evidence from the image, but nothing is wrong, okay? Give it your best shot, and then you will respond to 2 classmates. Try to have your first post up answering these 7 questions by Thursday night, and then respond to your 2 classmates before the discussion closes Sunday night at 11:59 p.m. Don't forget these images. They might be one of the options you have to choose from for the final exam essay in week 11. So the more thought and effort you put into the discussion, the more thoughts you'll already have available to you when it's time to do the final exam at the end of the course. So again, just give it your best shot. If you have any questions or run into any technical difficulties, let me know right away. Otherwise, I cannot wait to see what you guys think about the poster.